Hey y'all, welcome to Kamira's Kitchen. Today we're going to be doing an easy old school beef stew. You know that type where your grandma would make it and everyone would come running to the table. Well honey, I'm going to show you how to make a delicious beef stew today for those cold winter nights. Now I have a 2.5 pound chuck roast. This one has quite a bit of fat marbling, so I'm going to cut that off. It's best to use a piece of beef that's a little bit more lean than this, but hey, these days you just use what the grocery store got, and chuck roast is still one of my favorite cuts of stewing beef. So once I've cut that into pieces, bite-sized pieces, I'm going to cut up my bacon. Now I bet y'all did not expect that, honey. Yes, some bacon tastes really good in a beef stew, and it's going to render that fat and taste delicious. Now if you don't do pork, you can leave it out, but if you do, honey, give it a try and let me know how you like it. Once I have my meat cut up, I'm going to toss 2 tablespoons of flour onto my beef, as well as 1 tablespoon of garlic pepper seasoning. This has your garlic, your pepper, and a little bit of herbs in there as well, and about a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to coat that on my beef and allow that to stick, and this is what's going to help brown the beef and give it great flavor. Now at the bottom of your bowl, you're going to notice that a little bit of flour and some of that seasonings has fallen off and it's not stuck. Don't throw that away. We're just going to toss that right into the stew, okay? It's not even going to be a problem. Now my other ingredients for this include a bay leaf, some rosemary and thyme, about 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. I have 3 potatoes here, but I'm really going to use 4. And these vegetables are just whatever I had in my kitchen. I had 2 parsnips, 2 carrots, some celery, about 4 ounces of mushrooms. Of course, you guys have seen my beef already. 1 medium onion, some dry red wine is going to give it a rich flavor. And I really like this Lipton Secrets Beefy Onion mix. I only had half a packet, so I'm only going to use that today. But if you have a whole packet, you can surely use it. I have this beef stew mix by Spice King, but you could also use Knorr bouillon, some Better Than bouillon, and some tomato sauce. I'm using my Dutch oven with the crack in it, okay, to make this soup. And I actually wanted a pot like this, specifically an orange pot like this, for so long. And all the ones were $200 and I could not afford them. And then one day God told me to go into a thrift store and I saw this pot brand new in the box for $15, originally $200. Look at God, okay? So I love this pot, and all I did was just cook my bacon. Now in the same fat, I'm going to put in half of the beef because I don't want to crowd the pan and I want it to brown. Do not skip this step. Everything I'm showing you to do is what is building up the flavors to the beef stew. So do not skip anything. I am telling you, all right? Now I've cooked this beef in total for about 6 minutes, the first batch. Then I'm going to take it out and I'm just going to brown the second batch. That brown stuff at the bottom is the fond, and you need that for the flavor. And just to make sure it doesn't burn, I'm going to put in about 1/4 cup of the wine and just a little bit of olive oil so that I have enough oil to start to saute my veggies. All of these steps of caramelizing the veggies and browning the beef add that rich flavor to the beef stew. Cooking the tomato paste with the onions and the spices gets out that acidic taste so that the tomatoes won't have a bite in them. I'm also going to put in the rest of my veggies to let them start sauteing for about just 2 to 3 minutes. And then I'm going to add my herbs. First my thyme, and then about a tablespoon of this beef stew seasoning, or you can use beef bouillon, and then my garlic. I didn't put that in the beginning because garlic doesn't take quite as long to toast. I'm going to let that cook for about 1 more minute, and then I'm going to begin to add back in my beef with the juices, okay? Don't throw the juices away. That's the flavor. My tomato sauce, and I'm also going to rinse the can out because we ain't leaving none of that behind, all right? And the rest of my wine. If you don't like wine, just put in extra water. I'm going to fill my mixing bowl up with water to clean out all of the spices. That's about 4 cups of water, maybe 5. I'll be honest, I didn't even measure, okay? And I'm going to add in my beefy onion mix, which is really good in this, and a tablespoon of the beef Better Than bouillon. The bouillon as well as that beefy onion mix and the beef stew mix are really acting like the broth in this recipe. So if you use beef broth, just adjust to your taste. I covered my pot just to let it come up to a boil, and then I reduced my heat to a simmer. I allowed this to simmer for an hour and a half uncovered so that the gravy would reduce down while still making the beef and everything tender. After an hour and a half, you can see that the gravy has significantly reduced. Okay, my beef is actually pretty tender, but I'm going to let it cook a little bit longer because I'm going to put in my potatoes that I have cut up. I'm going to allow these to cook for 30 minutes, simmering in the stew to allow it to absorb up some of that extra liquid, and also it will continue to reduce down. After 30 minutes, this is what it's looking like. Now, I didn't put in a lot of potatoes, but feel free to add more. I have some frozen butternut squash and some frozen green beans. If you have frozen peas, that would be a wonderful thing to add, but I didn't have that, and this is one of those use up all the vegetables in the house dishes, okay? So I'm going to put in my frozen butternut squash and my green beans. I'm going to allow this to cook for 20 more minutes. If you have fresh butternut squash, then you should put it in at the same time you put in the potatoes. Guys, what is your favorite thing to serve with a beef stew? Because something as good looking as this, I think needs to go straight up with some cornbread. Okay, some cornbread. Now, y'all check out that recipe that I have on my channel. I will link it. I will see you next time. I love you and Jesus loves you. Goodbye, and I'll see you next time in Kamira's Kitchen.